It all began with a whisper, almost imperceptible, blending into the background like noise. But once it hit the internet, it spread like wildfire in audio that would shatter a family's world. Robyn Brown's voice, calm but calculated, detailing. A massive financial transfer was caught on tape, and the fallout, devastating. What was supposed to be a simple family trust was revealed to be a web of deception. Robyn had transferred over $800,000 from family assets meant to be shared into accounts under her sole control. The truth was out, and the consequences would be far-reaching. At first, the tape was just a murmur in the chaotic world of reality TV. But when it landed in the hands of an anonymous whistleblower, a production insider who'd grown uncomfortable with the behind-the-scenes manipulation, it became a ticking bomb. The recording, initially heard by Janelle, was a game-changer. Sitting in her Arizona rental with her son, Gabe, by her side, Janelle couldn't believe what she was hearing. She did it. She muttered, staring at the screen, the weight of betrayal settling in her chest. The funds, over $820,000, had been siphoned off and redirected, all in Robyn's name. The plot was thicker than anyone could have imagined. Janelle's heart raced as she confronted her son, his eyes wide with disbelief. "This is robbery. Mom, this is deception." Her voice trembled as the full scale of what had been done hit her. The details were worse than she thought. Robyn had forged signatures, even using Cody's name. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust, about control. That night, Janelle called Meri. Her anger barely contained. "She's taken it all, over $800,000, it's all in her name. And she used Cody's signature," Janelle said, her words cold with fury. Meri, stunned, struggled to process the magnitude of the betrayal. "She made up his name?" Meri asked, her voice faltering. "Yes," Janelle snapped. "She played us all." The storm had begun. As the pieces of the puzzle clicked together, the reality of the situation was undeniable. The three ex-wives, Janelle, Meri, and Christine, had always been divided, but this was different. They were united by a common cause: Robyn's betrayal. "She's underestimated the wrong women," Meri said with a grim determination, her eyes narrowing as she realized that they could no longer let this slide. No longer would they be pawns in Robyn's game. They were ready to fight back, and this time, it wasn't just about family drama, it was about justice. The stakes were higher than ever. Tensions came to a head when Robyn returned to Flagstaff for a taping of the TLC show. She walked onto set with her signature over-rehearsed charm. Unaware of the storm awaiting her, the producer, holding a tablet, announced, "We just want to get your reaction to this audio." The room went still. As the recording played, Robyn's face drained of color. The voice on the speaker was unmistakable, her own. Cody, standing by her side, turned to her, his gaze cold and unblinking. "You said you were only handling the finances," he said, his voice low and filled with accusation. Robyn faltered. The damage was done. For the first time, Cody's loyalty shattered. And the public had seen it all. The tape had ripped apart the facade that Robyn had so carefully crafted. It was over within hours. The media storm broke. Headlines blazed across news outlets. "Robyn Brown moves $820. Zero in family fund secret audio leaked." Robyn was exposed, and the backlash was relentless. Janelle and Meri wasted no time, preparing to sue for an independent audit and seeking accountability for the fraud and forgeries. "It's not just about money, it's about the trust that's been broken," Meri said, her voice filled with raw emotion. As the legal battles began, Cody, ever the reluctant figure, remained silent. "We're working through internal family matters," he muttered in a weak public statement. But the damage had been done. The family was broken, and the world was watching. Robyn, once in control, was now on the defensive. The court of public opinion had already made its judgment. Robyn threatened to sue the network for broadcasting private conversations, but by then, the damage was already done. The video had been broadcast, and the harm couldn't be undone. Alone in her home, the very house she had persuaded Cody to purchase in her name, Robyn sat in the quiet. The once cherished walls now suffocating her. The accounts were frozen. There was nothing but silence, and for the first time, the silence felt like exposure, not peace. Without her, the family began to unite. The final straw came during a family gathering, one where Robyn wasn't invited. In Arizona, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and their children came together for what they called a realignment. Janelle's voice rang out with resolve. "We need to take back our authority," she declared. "We will no longer be controlled." Meri's eyes swept the room, from Savannah to Hunter, Michael, Ty, Gabriel, and Gwendolyn. These were the children once sidelined by Robyn's influence. Now standing strong in defense of their mothers, she used our silence to build her empire. Christine continued, "But our silence is over." Robyn's isolation had begun in earnest. Back at home, Robyn scrolled through endless articles and headlines, each one painting her in a more damning light. She tried to call Cody, voicemail. She reached out to TLC's legal representative. But her calls were blocked. No more cameras, no more public support from Cody. No more family confessionals, only her, left to face the debris of her actions. I was just trying to protect what was mine, she whispered to herself, but in her quest to protect, to accumulate, to safeguard it all crumbled, she had lost everything. The reckoning came on a bleak Flagstaff morning. Robyn emerged from a black SUV, her lawyer at her side. The weight of the situation hung heavy, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a tight-lipped silence. The courthouse loomed ahead, its cold, imposing presence offering no solace. Inside, the gallery buzzed with reporters, bloggers, former Mormon campaigners, and curious locals. Robyn, once a woman who had cried on TLC about keeping her family together, now sat as a defendant in a civil fraud and forgery lawsuit filed by Meri and Janelle. Janelle sat across the room, her quiet confidence speaking volumes, dressed in navy. Her face bare of makeup, she exuded a determination that could not be ignored. Beside her, Meri's grim expression mirrored the years of grief she had borne, now bubbling to the surface as righteous fury. Then, the unexpected happened. The witness called to the stand was none other than Cody Brown. There was a heavy silence as Cody stepped forward, his usual theatrical flair nowhere to be found. He sat down, hands resting nervously in his lap, his hair pulled tighter than usual. When asked if he had approved the transfer of more than $820,000 into Robyn's personal accounts, he hesitated. No, the forms weren't read by me. I trusted Robyn. The judge's gaze sharpened. And did you know that 3 different documents were digitally signed by you? Cody faltered. Then shook his head. No, I wasn't aware. I just trusted her when she said she was streamlining things. The gallery murmured with disbelief. Robyn sat rigid, her face flushed with anxiety, while her lawyer frantically scanned through papers. Janelle, calm and composed, observed with cold precision. This was at the unraveling of the carefully constructed narrative she had once bought into. The truth was out. The world would soon know. Janelle stood, poised, and walked to the witness chair. She spoke with clarity, recounting the years she had spent overseeing the family finances. How accounts were once handled jointly. How Robyn had pushed for the transfer of all funds to centralized control. When I raised concerns, Robyn called me paranoid, Janelle explained. She said I was fostering distrust. We now know, though, that she wasn't assisting. She was hiding everything. She looked at Robyn directly. You didn't just deceive Cody, you deceived all of us. You took from our children, from our futures. Robyn's defense began to crumble. By afternoon, Robyn's legal team was in full panic mode. The evidence against her was overwhelming: falsified e-signatures, concealed bank transfers, altered official ledger files. Her attorneys tried to argue that she was overwhelmed, that she had taken on the responsibility because no one else would, but Christine's sworn affidavit made things worse. Christine detailed years of exclusion and how Robyn had discussed controlling the family's wealth. Once the other wives had left, she told me we were unstable and didn't deserve equal shares. Christine's affidavit read, she said, I'll be the last wife standing when this all falls apart. Robyn's face, once filled with calculated confidence, now cracked with fear. The court session ended with a mandate for a complete forensic examination of all Brown family assets, a freeze on Robyn's personal accounts, and a continued investigation into the community property funds. The final words of the day were clear: Robyn's empire was on the brink of collapse, and there was no turning back. In a week, the court would meet again. As Janelle descended the courthouse steps, the supporters cheered, her presence unbothered by the reporters who tried to get a word in. She and Meri kept their silence. No longer was this family bound by the fantasies of Cody and Robyn. Their grip on the situation had loosened. Inside, Robyn slumped in a cold quarter chair, her lawyer whispering next steps to her. But Robyn didn't respond this time. She stared blankly at the floor, overwhelmed by the realization that she no longer held control over her image, her finances, or even Cody. Across the plaza, Cody sat alone, his hands clutching his head, elbows resting on his knees. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the center of attention. His world was collapsing around him. The audit had shattered Robyn's carefully constructed illusion, and she knew it. The day the audit report was released, the room was packed more than ever before. A thick, red-bound forensic accounting report was carried in with hushed anticipation. Attorneys, court clerks, and even a TLC production representative waited with bated breath. The judge, her voice steady and clinical, began reading the findings. 14 distinct financial transfers totaling $823,417.52, she stated, her words cutting through the tension in the room. These transfers were made between 2020 and 2024 into 3 unidentified accounts under Robyn Sullivan Brown's name. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Janelle's arms were crossed tightly over her chest. Her gaze fixed with fierce determination. Meri barely nodded, her head tilting slightly. Cody, stunned, leaned back in his seat, the gravity of the situation sinking in, but it didn't stop there. The report detailed a Flagstaff property purchased with $412. Zero from the community property account and a vacation home in Sedona, both hidden from the public. And the rest of the family, even TLC appearance fees, had been diverted into Robyn's personal accounts, all in an effort to suppress evidence. Robyn's lawyer tried to interrupt, but it was too late. The data was irrefutable. The curtain was torn away, exposing the hidden world behind Robyn's machinations, trusts, properties, and children's funds. The most heartbreaking detail was the revelation that Robyn had diverted college savings funds meant for the children of all the wives. The Brown Futures Fund, once a joint account managed by Janelle and Meri, had been reduced to only $4,712. The rest of the funds had been transferred into an account under the names Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora from Sullivan Educational Holdings. When the details were read aloud, Janelle remained stoic, but Savannah, sitting nearby, felt the sting of the betrayal. Cody's downfall was swift after the report came to light. The man who had once been the head of a family now found himself lost and defeated. The cameras caught him pacing the corridors, muttering, "How could she do this? How could I let her do this?" Later, outside the courthouse, a reporter asked if he felt deceived by Robyn. He didn't respond directly, instead saying, "I trusted everything she told me. I opened our house to her, and she set it on fire." Meanwhile, Meri wasted no time filing a formal motion for damages and restitution. The lawsuit demanded the return of the misappropriated community property funds, the liquidation of concealed assets, and a criminal investigation into the forged signatures and fraudulent transfers. Janelle co-signed the motion. Christine released a public video declaring, "Even though I'm no longer with the family, I'm witnessing justice being served. You don't get to keep what wasn't yours in the first place, Robyn." As for Robyn, the cracks in her life became chasms. She spent 2 days locked in her bedroom, surrounded by constant calls from her lawyers, TLC representatives, and the mounting pressure of her unraveling empire. She gazed at the possessions she had secretly hoarded: designer purses, property deeds hidden in shoe organizers, unopened Amazon packages, everything now evidence against her. In her mind, it had all been for protection, but now it was meaningless. The last court notice in her hands told her Sullivan Trust Holdings had 30 days to comply with the freeze. For the first time in her meticulously controlled life, Robyn had nothing left to perform for. The backlash on the internet was swift and brutal. Once supportive fans now turned on Robyn, calling her the final wife who buried the family. Thought pieces flooded Reddit, YouTube, and TikTok, all analyzing how Robyn had engineered the fall of the Brown empire. Even TLC issued a statement saying they were reevaluating future filming. In light of the legal proceedings, Cody, once the face of the family, stopped posting on social media. Meanwhile, Meri, Janelle, and Christine were in talks with a new production firm about a spin-off series. As for Robyn, she continued to hide behind the walls she had built with her stolen funds, the illusion of control slipping further away with every passing day. The final decision came in a tense, nearly spiritual silence. Cameras were prohibited and only the voices of the court could be heard. Robyn, dressed in black, sat trembling at the defendant's table, her eyes rimmed with red. Her lawyer, drained and silent, sat beside her. The gallery behind them was filled with witnesses to justice. No longer fans or supporters, this was the end of an era for the Brown family. The empire Robyn had built was crumbling. Janelle straightened her posture, unwavering. Her eyes never left the judge. She wasn't here to relish the moment. She was here to finish the task Robyn had begun. Beside her, Meri held a single folder, the one that contained the falsified documents Robyn had crafted. Ever since she had uncovered the truth, she had kept those papers close, never letting them go. Judge Helms entered without fanfare. She took her seat, flipped through the pages, and spoke in a voice shaped by years of observing empires crumble. This court finds Robyn Sullivan Brown liable for misappropriation of community property funds, fraud through concealment, and civil forgery of financial signatures. After carefully reviewing all financial documents, testimonies, and forensic audit data, Robyn felt the weight of the words like a crushing blow. Her shoulders trembled, her lips twitched. But she made no sound. She lost everything. The judge continued, listing the terms of the ruling, and the courtroom held its breath as the fate of Robyn's empire was sealed. First, the complete liquidation of the BRS family trust, all assets, including properties in Sedona and Flagstaff, will be auctioned at market value. Second, the original CP account, now managed by an impartial third-party trustee appointed to Meri and Janelle, will receive $823, $417.52 in damages. Third, all diverted college funds will be returned to the biological and adopted Brown children through the reallocation of the Brown Futures Fund. Fourth, financial power is revoked. Robyn is no longer permitted to act on behalf of any LLC or Brown family business. Fifth, the investigation into financial forgeries will be forwarded to the Arizona State Attorney's Office. A sob escaped Robyn's chest, but she quickly shook off her lawyer's hand on her shoulder. Refusing comfort, Meri didn't feel sorry for her. Janelle merely exhaled, the weight of years of manipulation now lifting. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, but Meri and Janelle remained silent, walking hand in hand. They were no longer the women who had been silenced for so long. They were a storm, quiet but powerful, marked by both anguish and victory. The money wasn't the point, it never had been. It was about the years of silence, the things they had given up for a man who wouldn't defend them, the deceit of a woman who had built an empire behind their backs, while hiding behind masks of innocence. At the end of the sidewalk, Christine waited. She embraced each of them, tears in her eyes. "We succeeded," Meri whispered, "at last. We removed her authority." There was a permanent shift in power. Robyn's world was crumbling. Robyn returned to a house she no longer owned. That evening, she received a transition letter from the trustee, stating she had 45 days to vacate the property unless she could buy it back, which, as the letter made clear, she no longer had the means to do. At the dining table, Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora sat in silence, the dim lights casting shadows on their faces. The tension was thick in the air. "What now?" Aurora asked quietly. Robyn opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Her empire had fallen, weeks passed, and the liquidated trust funds were distributed. Meri and Janelle stood together in a lawyer's office, going over the new possessions they had acquired: one vacation house in Utah, one commercial property in Arizona. Their names were now tied to 40% of all TLC residuals. They didn't celebrate. They didn't toast with champagne. They signed the papers quietly. Both women who had fought for every inch of their independence and carried the scars to prove it. They left the office in silence. Janelle gave a small, knowing smile. "We now have the authority to determine what constitutes legacy." As for Cody, he was last seen renting a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Flagstaff, alone, separated from all four of his wives, his phone silent and his hair turning gray. No more TLC cruises, no more big families under one roof, no empire, just a man lost in his regrets. He sat with a faded family photo still unpacked on the counter. Gazing at the bare walls of his living room, he picked up the photo and muttered, "What on earth did I do?" before placing it face down on the counter. The future without Robyn's empire didn't spell the end of the Brown family, it marked a new beginning. Reclaimed Life After Plural Marriage was a new documentary series Christine, Meri, and Janelle co-produced, focusing on financial freedom, healing, and rebuilding. Finally free from fear and duty, their children spoke freely, no longer bound by the weight of their past. Robyn, however, vanished from the public eye. TLC quietly ended her contract, her home in Flagstaff sold, and her name slowly faded from the trending tabs. She became the outsider, something she never could have imagined. The others? They changed completely. As we close out this chapter of the Brown family saga, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the fall of Robyn's empire? Do you believe justice was truly served, or is there more to the story that hasn't been told yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get the conversation started. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update on the latest developments. We're just getting started. There's much more to unpack and you don't want to miss it. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to support the channel. Share this with your friends so they can join the conversation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, keep questioning.